Today I'm working on a 2012 Kia Soul, and what we're looking at right here is the crank sensor. I've already loosened this bolt up, so I'm going to take it out. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the crank sensor out because it has an intermittent stalling or hard to crank issue. And the engine goes into what most would perceive as a reduced power mode or limp in mode. And we've got a loud diesel driving by us right now. And that should just kind of turn and rotate and pull out of there. I got to get this pulled out of there. But we've had a little bit of issue with this vehicle in that the customer has not been able to accurately describe what's going on with it. Their initial complaint to us was that the lights are coming on. Well, yeah, the lights come on when you the engine's not running. And they didn't bother mentioning anything about that, at least when I heard about it. I determined that it was no longer running because you could see the tach. They sent us a picture of the dash with the lights on, and you could see a picture of the tach and it was reading 0. And also the door ajar light was on, and you're rarely going down the road with the door ajar light going on. Well, next thing I got to do is get up in here and get to this connector. I'm not sure we're going to be able to see that or not. Probably have to see it on the way out. You can just kind of barely see it up there above that hose. But I'm going to have to get it unclipped. I'm sure there's some sort of a locking retainer, and I'll have to get that loose, push the pin, and then pull it out. And then once I get it coming out, I'll turn the camera back on. Okay, I'm back to changing out this crank sensor. As you can see, I've got this disconnected. You have to squeeze the lever lock. Hopefully you can see this up here. You have to squeeze the lever. Actually, you have to push it in first, then squeeze this lever in, then pull it back. You can, once you've got it pushed in a little bit and push on it, you'll feel it click, and then you pull it off. Then you have to go through and wiggle this one up off the bracket. This one you already saw me pull loose, and the next thing we do is rotate. Usually just rotate and pull these things out, but this one's being a little bit tricky or stubborn. So I'll probably have to get a screwdriver on it for leverage. Well, it ain't working out so good. We try getting in here with these pliers and rotate and pull, and there it came right out. So that's the old one out. Nothing much to see. Just a dirty crank sensor. Get that down there. Now we're going to get the new NTK crank sensor. We went with this because it was readily available and had a better warranty and in the same price range as the OE. Okay, I'm back to putting the new crank sensor in. As you can see, I've got it well oiled with new clean engine oil. Now we'll see if we can't get this O-ring slid in there. I mean the crank sensor slid in there. Got to push and rotate. Took a little bit of pushing and rotating to get it in there and get it to level out. There we go. I'll come back and tighten that down and put the right torque on it in a minute. Got to feed this up through the hole and get that little bit of oil off of it. From where I was handling it with new oil and oil on my gloves and everything. And we're going to go up through here. And I'm not gonna plug this in or snap that in just yet because I got to get this put on first. Okay, I gotta finish sliding this down. It'll hear it kind of halfway click. Plug the plug back up. and then come back through here and plug this in the little slot. That's that. Now all I gotta do is tighten that down. I'm gonna tighten it up to about 11 Newton meters, which is about 9 foot-pounds. And that is well within the range of what it showed. So that should be done. Now all I gotta do is get it cranked up, go through a couple of little relearns possibly, and a test drive. I gotta get that thing formed around the way I want, so it looks just nice and dandy. Oops, gotta get that plugged up. Oh, it is plugged up. It's the other piece where it latches on there. Well, I'm about 2 miles into my test drive, and I'm not sure if I'm going to go on the 18-mile test drive or the 30-mile test drive. It might even be longer than that. Kind of just depends on what kind of time I make and how everything's going. Don't want to get too far from the shop and get stranded, but I do think the car is fixed. And going back to the diagnostics on this, it's kind of strange that what happens in this industry, and I'm sure it happens in a lot of other industries too, you get a little bit of information from the scan tool about what's going on, but then when you look at the type of problem that it has and the diagnostics that would go into it to be 100% sure you're changing the right part, it just isn't cost effective anymore, because in order to do this properly, this thing acts up every maybe 50 to a couple hundred miles, and you would have to hook up oscilloscopes, run the leads from underneath the hood into the cabin. You would have to have one person drive, another person watch the oscilloscope, and you have to test drive it until it acts up. Once it acts up, you have to have a plan in place to go to the next step in the wiring harness to test and drive it again until it acts up again. And then you get to decide what's actually wrong. But it could take hours or days to get through the proper diagnosis. So what we do in this case, or these cases, is we go ahead and do our research and we repair by statistics. When you see a dozen or more people on the forums that have had the same complaint and the same code, and they all had the same repair, fix it, you kind of got to go with that repair, particularly if it's not terribly expensive. And in this case, it was a crank sensor. Crank sensor runs approximately $100 to $120, depending on where you buy it from. Sure, you can buy it less expensive than that if you're doing it yourself, but you also have to deal with warranties and actually have to do it yourself. And it's not terribly hard to change either, so the bulk of what's going to be in this repair is probably going to be the test drive to confirm that the problem's gone. Well, I'm finished with the test drive and nothing bad happened, so this thing is going to be fixed with a simple crankshaft sensor replacement. Sparky out.